Welcome to Investment News TV. We are here to talk about benchmarking, and we're talking about the talent challenge for investment advisors. My name is Andy Burt, and I have the distinct privilege of introducing three friends of mine, and I'd like for you to introduce yourselves. Suzanne, can I start with you?
Absolutely. Hi, great to be here. Suzanne Siracuse, CEO of Suzanne Siracuse Consulting. So thanks for having us.
Thank you. And Leslie?
Hey, Andy, thanks for inviting me. Leslie Tabor with Schwab Advisor Services, Business Consulting and Education.
And to my right, Hannah.
Yes, I am Hannah Moore. I am the CEO of Amplified Planning and the founder of the Externship. I'm also a financial planner and have a practice in the Dallas area.
Thank you. Well, welcome. And what brought the three of you together so we can talk about that?
Yeah, well, we have been running the Externship for 6 years now, and we've had over 6,500 people go through this program. And one of the things that we are hearing more and more is what is a talent really looking for that's coming in? And we were seeing that what we were hearing wasn't being reflected in this larger conversation in our profession, this industry. And so that's really kind of part of the conversation that we've been having. And I mean, Schwab, it's a great partner for this because, I'll let you kind of
we've been partnering with the Externship for, has it been the entire 6 years, 5 years?
It's been a long time.
It's been a while. And what I love about the partnership is Hannah and the Externship brings forward the voice of talent. We always talk to our advisors, look at your website, look through your employee experience through the lens of prospective talent, just as they would for prospective clients. And so partnering with the Externship brings that prospective talent voice into the conversation. We then exchange kind of what we're learning, because on the Schwab side, we can tell the Externship, tell Hannah, here's what advisors are doing to recruit and retain and develop their talent. So the partnership just makes sense. It tells a really full, holistic story.
Well, one of the most frustrating things from our standpoint, from talent, we hear consistently on the Schwab benchmarking, finding talent and retaining talent is one of the top issues.
Yes.
Consistently. And we're hearing all of this talent coming into the space, just having trouble finding roles. And so we really wanted to dive into this even more and see, can we really come up with real insights and solutions for that?
Yeah. And so how I fit into this equation is I've been working with Hannah now for the last 4.5 years. I've worked with Schwab for my entire career in wealth management. And what was so interesting was their dual interest in really trying to solve the talent shortage and the talent crisis for financial advisors. And because Hannah had been using the Externship for 6 years, 1,800 aspiring financial advisors went through the program this year. We surveyed that group and asked them, what are some of the things that you're looking for why did you want to become a financial advisor? Why did you take the Externship? If you decide to become a financial planner, what are the things you're looking for in an employer? What are the things that motivate you? What are some of the barriers that you're seeing, and what are some of the challenges? And that's really what this new research brief that is being released today is going to be talking all about. It's really a guide for the wealth management industry.
Thank you, all of you. And you mentioned this talent shortage. There are a few numbers out there. One of the ones that I think about is the 70,000 financial advisor shortage that could happen over the next few years. And so I'm curious, to what degree do you think this is an urgent problem?
I mean, absolutely, right? The 70,000, Andy, is spot on, because our research shows that based on industry growth, the number of RAs that are in the industry today, we'll need to bring on 70,000 new hires over the next 5 years just to keep pace with the growth that we're experiencing already. And then on top of that, I think the Cerulli numbers show a third of advisors are projected to retire in the next 10 years, right? That third represents 41% of assets in our industry, right? So the urgency is, it's now. Right? And firms, to your point, Hannah, talent continues to be top of mind. Recruiting new talent is the number 2 strategic priority for firms. Developing talent broke the number 5 spot for the first time ever in the 18-year history of our benchmarking study. So talent is top of mind. And so I feel like they're primed to address the urgency. And they're likely feeling it. They're feeling the need for talent in their firms.
And then from a talent side of it, the talent is here. Like the talent is interested, like they're ready to go and they're facing, I mean, I know we're going to talk about barriers to entry in a minute, but they're facing these barriers and they're getting discouraged. And so we have the talent that's wanting to break in and they're hitting a wall. And so this isn't just how do we go recruit more people? They're here. It's how do we actually bring them in the door?
And I think one of the most important things too is what can firms be doing to set themselves up for success, and having training programs, development programs that aren't just like happenstance, but they're dedicated. There's somebody dedicated to helping aspiring financial advisors, new financial advisors, get the training that they need in order to be successful. Clear career pathing was another thing that came up. Mentorship, establishing internship programs so that they can also get experience looking at client-facing activities. All of those things can be done and are being done now by some of the firms. In the brief, we actually highlight a few use cases of firms that are currently doing it well.
Excellent. And I know we're going to get to a point where we talk about action plan and what can be done next. But I'm curious, why do you think this shortfall has emerged at this particular point? Has it been, companies just asleep at the wheel, just not really understanding the significance of what's going on? Do you have any theories there?
I think clients are asking for it, right? I think they're looking for the independence, the fiduciary mindset that the RIA industry brings. I think that the demand is coming from the marketplace. Probably the challenge is meeting the pace at which the demand are experiencing, right? Because the firms that we work with, they are hiring. They're actively hiring. They have internship programs. To your point, we've interviewed them, right? And they've got structured training that helps advisors start as CSAs and follow the career path into junior advisors, into lead advisor roles. So I feel like at least what we're hearing and seeing at Schwab is the firms are putting the mechanisms in place to attract and recruit talent and then develop, so in hopes that they retain and stay with their firms. But I think that the pressure or the demand is coming from clients are realizing the value in having a fiduciary serve their family and their wealth. Yeah.
I would say though, like the firms that are doing it tend to be your top performers and they're outliers. I still think that the majority of this industry doesn't have the mechanisms in place yet. They're trying to, and if they look at some of the material from the Schwab benchmarking study, it'll really show and indicate that you really need to do that to perform at your top level and to continue to grow, because you can't just keep buying firms, right? In order to grow, you need that organic growth. In order to do that, you need to have people that fuel that organic growth. To answer your question about training and why now, well, remember, most of the training programs were established in the wirehouses. The majority of advisors are starting to move out of the wirehouses and in the independent space. With that independence comes independence. So there's not one structured training for all of these new advisors like there used to be. That's a huge reason why.
And Hannah, I know you talked about pathways to entry.
Yeah.
And your research broke down 3 distinctive groups of people and some of the barriers that each of those have to encounter. I was wondering if you could talk about that a little.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we went into this and we were looking at kind of generations is how we started, but we realized that really from the research, the distinguishing difference was really the entry point at which they came. So we have our traditional college students that are coming in, and there's a lot of them, and some of these really great programs. And so we have those folks. We also have this new demographic, and I don't think it's a new demographic, but one that we're really able to identify right now of career changers who are coming into the space and they are bringing in previous experience and wanting to break into this field. And then we have folks who are tangential to financial planning. So think your accounting, your bank manager, and folks who are seeing this from a distance and are curious about it and wanting to break into this. And so we're seeing that those are kind of some of the 3 distinct kind of points of entry for folks who are coming into this. Now, from what are the barriers to entry? There's some that we see across the board, right? We're seeing that there's a lot of confusion around what are the jobs. What am I actually expected to do? Am I expected to do a sales role? There's a reputation of what this field has versus what is reality that I think is really hard to navigate. Not knowing where to start, not having clear career paths. We're seeing indistinct, like each one of those groups are a little bit different on what some of those barriers are. So for college students, are they going to give me the training? Are they going to invest in me? Career changers are really seeing, like, are they going to actually respect the experience that I bring? Like, are they going to make me do the career path that you're having an entry-level college student do when I already bring so many skills? Are they actually able to appreciate that? And are they able to develop me and really give me the lay of the land on this? And so that each group has kind of distinctive kind of issues that they're facing.
Thank you. And Leslie, any thoughts?
Yeah, well, from our benchmarking study, we know that the top 3 kind of pipelines that advisors are tapping into, their professional personal networks, colleges and universities, and then other RIAs, right? I don't think that's I think everybody knows that. I will say that I looked also at the other categories of pipelines that our study shows, and they are tapping into banks and wirehouses and IBDs, et cetera, right? At a large portion, I think over 50% they're recruiting from those channels, right? So, I was interesting. We had a demystifying the RIA industry panel with our students this morning. And the panelists talked about the industry and demystifying some of the myths that students might have about what this profession is, what the RIA profession is. And a lot of panelists agree that students are coming out of schools, they know all the technical things that they're supposed to know back and forth. They're wonderful. The challenge that some of the advisors shared was that how that translates into human relationships is one of the barriers, right? And that there is a long runway to get that, because you actually have to participate and engage in those conversations with clients, learn their life stories, learn how to help them navigate through those life experiences. And I think that is tougher to teach in a classroom. And it starts to be a barrier for students initially when they're coming into the profession, I think.
And we define those as like behavioral-based competencies, where a lot of career changers are going to come in and they're going to have those skill sets. They just don't have necessarily the knowledge of like, hey, how does this work? Like, how do I open up a new account and transfer assets? Wait, what am I supposed to be doing in this? Like, am I serving my client's best interest? How do I work this software? Isn't it? Yeah.
Because the career changers come with the human side of
exactly
having experiences with navigating relationships. They might not have a degree in financial planning where all the technical skills would have grown, right? Would have come from.
And I do think too, on top of that, those that have the technical skills, that side of the brain may not want to go out and sell or do business development and get business. And so that's become a real barrier, especially because it's tied to compensation, especially in the beginning of one's career, right? They don't want to sell clients, they want to advise clients. So there's a repositioning of what selling means. And I think that that's going to be one of the things that you're going to see in the future.
Thank you. Now, I know one of the things that surprised me about this report is that it is not tethered to this age demographic that we've always kind of historically thought it to be. Did anything else surprise you coming out of the research?
Well, for me, I'll start. For me, it was the career changers, which are the highest percentage of pipeline that are currently taking the externship program. One of the main motivators of taking the externship and getting involved in financial planning was their own personal experience. So maybe they are saving for their kids to go to college, and so they started a 529 plan, and they started talking to a financial advisor or somebody at a bank. Maybe they lost a loved one, like a parent, and they've had to deal with estate planning issues, et cetera, et cetera. When you have your own real life experiences and you're realizing that a financial planner could help you or guide you in the right direction, that's becoming of interest to these career changers. I think that's super interesting.
Maybe not so much a surprise, but created more questions for me.
Another brief.
I know,
Gotta do
another
another brief.
Yeah. Created more questions for me, and it is the career changers piece, because again, what we're seeing on the Schwab side in terms of the areas and pipelines that advisors are tapping into, where does career changers fit into that? Is it in the professional, personal networks? How do we get firms connected directly to those career changers? Because that being your largest demographic of externs is just opportunity, ripe opportunity to make some connections, right? So I'm throwing them your way, right? Saying you need to be a part of the externship. I know the CFP board is leaning into programming for career changers as well. I just think there's some untapped opportunity that I hope we can crack. Yeah.
Yeah, and their skills they're bringing in is it's just incredible. Like it really is incredible when we look at that talent that's coming in. You know, one of the things that I think surprised me that was really identified in a lot of this data, because I mean, you know, we've been working with these folks for a while, but one of the big trends is how important training is for them. Like they're not just wanting the job. Like they don't want to know that, hey, I landed the job. They're asking what's next before they're taking that job. And that's even a change that I've seen just in conversations over the last few years, where they really want to know that they're going to be set up for success at firms instead of just like, they don't want to make another change.
Right.
They want this to be it.
Yep. Great.
Now, Suzanne, you mentioned the compensation a little bit. I'm curious to know from you, maybe you starting, is the word that kept coming through to me in the report was this idea of purpose.
Yeah.
And so it's not necessarily just compensation driven to make the change or to get into the industry. There's this idea of purpose. I'm curious to know, how did that manifest in what you discovered in this report?
Oh, I can jump in on this. One of the neatest things, we have an entry-level survey every year it's been 6 years now. We ask folks, what's your motivation for coming in? Number one, over 94% of folks coming in are saying helping people is their driver for why they're coming into this. Suzanne's already alluded to this, but they're seeing this personal interest in personal finance. They're seeing like how like they know the power of financial planning in their own lives. They've seen it, whether it's been positive or negative. They've seen how it'll impact their neighbor and their brother-in-law and their parents and their kids, and they want to help be part of the solution. They see this macro issue of financial stress that's weighing on all the people around them, and they want to be part of the solution for that. And then it's so inspiring to hear their stories, to hear their whys. We ask them when they come in and just in our forums, and we truly have hundreds of answers. And it'll almost bring tears to your eyes if you go through and just read it, of the whys behind why people are coming into the space. And this is one of the things that firms really have to understand, is that they might not be your target demographic of like who they are from a clientele standpoint, but we have to be able to tap into their motivation to really bring them that purpose and that satisfaction. And that's where the best firms are going to be able to differentiate themselves. And we'll talk about solutions in a minute, I know, but
No, but Hannah, you I think you hit the nail on the head. And you know, to extend that a little bit, especially those that are from underserved communities, right? There's a much higher diversity within the externship of those going through the externship than there are currently in our industry. And again, one of those motivations is, I grew up in a neighborhood where we didn't talk about money. Nobody had a financial advisor. I want to bring that to my community. That's a huge revelation that I think our industry needs to pay attention to.
We're, like you mentioned, we have our diversity stats are 3 to 4 times industry average. They're far more similar to what our nation actually is. And I know the report kind of outlines a lot of those pieces, but it's so exciting because we talk about the increased demand for financial planners in this, and how consumers are driving this. This is the answer to that problem. Imagine what could happen if all of these financial planners who have such diverse backgrounds, from racial diversity, from gender diversity, from backgrounds, from the teachers to the military to it is so profound when we think of if we can really empower and train these people and then get them into firms, the impact that our profession can have in the world.
I really like the way you expressed that, because we've talked about the 70,000 number. You've talked about the number of people who've come through the program, and in this benchmarking, we think about it in the aggregate. But what you said is it actually goes down to the personal connection from one person to another that really kind of transforms things.
Yeah, and it's this group is ready for it. Like they're ready for it. And this is not to say we're asking firms to lower their minimums. Like we're not, that's a whole other conversation. But that's not the expectation. It's just recognizing and appreciate. People want to be seen. They want to be seen for, that was one of the big things with career changers. They want to be seen and appreciated for their past career change. Like what are the skills that they're bringing in? But it's not just their skills, it's who they are and their passions as well.
And we've talked about barriers to entry a little bit. I'm curious to know, what are some solutions that have come out of this research?
Yeah, no, I think like establishing career paths, which to be honest, not many firms have in place, but I think they're all thinking about that. This is a great time for this research to come out because most firms are going into their strategic planning for 2026. And I would put what is your talent strategy at the top of that list. But again, internships, mentorship programs, dedicated training. We mentioned some solutions in this executive brief. Opal Wealth Advisors, they're not even a big firm. They have created their own training program in-house because one of the partners loves teaching and loves doing that. Most firms aren't going to want to do that. So you have to look for outsourced vehicles. Amplified Planning does it. There are a couple others, but there's quite frankly, that's going to be, I think, much more of an emphasis as we move forward in the coming years.
Well, one thing I just want to jump,
Yeah,
really quick
please.
to jump on this. You mentioned the career path. And one of the things that we found in the research was that folks who are already in like a year or two, they're saying that firms had it written down, but they weren't actually living into it. And so it's not just enough to have the career path. It's how are you actually training to it? How are you actually, it needs to be a living, breathing document within your firm, not just something that like, hey, check, we have a career path and we'll go check in a year or two. It really is something that folks are wanting this more intentional training and development around, and knowing that it is something that's being referenced on a regular basis.
Yeah. And I was going to double down on that with that exact point, but to expand on it, I think, no, I love it. we're so, yeah, we're together.
Good.
Yeah. No, what I was going to say is firms do have, small firms, large firms, they have intentions and actions around development and training. But to your point, it's aligning it to the specific milestones that they've outlined along that career path.
Yes.
Right. I think that's that intentionality maximizes the opportunity to retain that employee, to help them progress through their career. There's so many benefits when you can tie the training so it doesn't feel random, but you're tying it to the career path. The other thing I want to double down on is just the value of internships. Whether you're a small firm or a large firm, you can have an intern program, right? Whether you're hiring one intern or a group of interns, right? I think the value is the opportunity to try each other out, right? Interns have the opportunity to actually know what it means to have that human connection, right? If they're able to participate or at least observe client meetings, right? They figure out, is this the firm that I ultimately want to pursue working for, if it's a possibility, where firms get a chance to see, okay, what are the skill sets that these interns are bringing to the table, and how can we help develop them? Maybe there's an opportunity for a full-time role upon graduation. I think there's so many benefits to an intern program. And the best piece of advice, because the most common questions is, how do I start an intern program? And then what are they going to work on for 8 weeks? Right? What do they work on? I don't have 8 weeks of work, right? That they can then just leave right after 8 weeks. So those are the common questions that we get. But the best advice I've heard from a firm is, just get started. It's okay to plan out maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And once your intern is in place, they will help you. You will work together to figure out what they can get value from and what they're learning, and then how it connects to what the firm's purpose is and what the firm is trying to deliver for clients or their functions, et cetera, right? It's okay to start imperfect, I think, when it comes to tackling an internship program. It feels big, but it doesn't have to feel big, right?
And one other just key thing that came up in the research is aspiring advisors want the company that they're going to work for to have an employee value proposition.
Absolutely.
And that can be a fun thing, and that can be an interesting thing that you do with a group, with your team. And it's something that you can do within like a few weeks to implement. That's not going to take years to develop. So that would be the other thing.
One of the things we found, especially with our career changer kind of demographic, was one we heard over and over that they kept seeing that the job postings sounded like they were looking to hire a college student. And so even just tweaking your job posting to make it more open and inviting to folks who might be returning to the workforce, who might be, bringing other skill sets to it. So even just changing the language around the qualifications or changing the language, showing that it is more inviting. We were surprised to hear how loud we heard that when we really started asking the questions.
I'm sorry, I know you want to get to add to that. One more thing. Yeah, one more thing. I would say to firms, what happens after someone looks at the job description?
Yeah.
What's the first thing they probably do? Go to the website.
Absolutely.
Right. And if your website doesn't give that prospective talent a sense of what it would be like to work at that firm, all they have to go on is a job description. They're likely going to move on to the next job description, right? So putting your EVP on your website or even sharing employee stories and experiences, what employees live out at their firm, feature that on your website because that will help. Because the first thing they'll do after they see that job description is, oh, I'm curious about this firm. I'm gonna do my research, right?
And with the minute that we have left, my last question for you is, what do we have the potential to make this all look like in the next 5 years?
That's a big question. That's a big question. I think that firms are, as they continue to professionalize their businesses, they will realize the importance of people and talent are probably the most important things that they need to focus on as part of a business strategy discussion.
I mean, I hope 70,000 more, can I say that, right? And probably growing, right? I think that is something that we can aspire to. I also just see that a more diverse profession is probably a direction that would benefit our industry, so that we're representing all the lived experiences that clients would be bringing to our tables.
Yes. Yeah. And, from a talent standpoint, I think in 5 years, my hope is that this is demystified, that there is a clear pathway for them to come in and not just come in, but also what do I need to be trained on? How am I going to get trained on? And really shortening that learning curve and making it so the talent, when they're getting into those jobs, they're ready to go. They're not here for a 2-year training program. They're ready to hit the ground running and start adding value immediately.
Wonderful insights. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Suzanne. Great conversation. And I know that people are going to be impacted by this research. Thank you for joining us. My name is Andy Burt. This is Investment News TV.